Alright, for today's video review, we're taking a look at Transformers War for Cybertron Kingdom Vertebreak. Vertebreak here is a new character that was made for the Kingdom line. The name Vertebreak has been used a couple times before. I think it was like a one-off villain in the 2015 RID. Pretty sure it was one of the names for the non-show character Predacons for Transformers Prime, and it's been used a couple times other than that. But yeah, here we have Vertebreak. Now she is a fossilizer, and I've seen some people refer to this figure as a she and some as a he. I personally I think it just reminds me so much of that Power of the Primes Slash that I think of Vertebreak as a she, and it's always nice to have more female characters. But either way, she's a really good little figure. I'd say this was probably the one in Kingdom that I was least excited about, just because it's a non-show character from Beast Wars, and it's doing the fossilizer thing, but it doesn't actually come apart and do the fossilizer gimmick like the deluxes do. So it's just a little bony dinosaur, which is fine. It's a really good figure. It's just, out of all the ones that I got, it was the one that I was probably the least excited about. But it was the first one that I found. So yeah. Here we have, it's a little, some kind of raptor, I would say. I don't know a ton about specific kinds of dinosaurs, but yeah, I'd say it looks pretty good. Um, Here it is with the other core class that I got. I didn't get the Optimus Prime. She is with Rat Trap, and then here she is with Paleotrex, which is the other fossilizer, but the deluxe scale one that actually does the fossilizer gimmick, just so you can see what they look like together. And yeah, to transform her, first you take the tail and just take it off. That'll be the weapon in robot mode. You straighten out the legs, so bring them down and fold the knees out. Take the front hands here, I was going to say front legs, but I guess they're not really legs. And you fold this piece out to the back, and then take the arms, and they're on a separate rotation joint that goes out. And the one on this side is pretty stiff. Like it's definitely loosened up since I first got it, but first when I was transforming it, I kept just popping the ball joint because that joint itself is so stiff, but seems to have loosened up. Then you take this back panel here and just get a fingernail underneath there and then fold it out. It only folds out that far. And then there's this panel inside which comes out, which I usually just kind of pull this whole hinge section out, and that comes with it. And then while you're rotating this down, you also want to rotate out her head. And then bring the dinosaur head down, and it pegs into the body there, and then bring this panel the rest of the way down, and it just kind of lays over the dinosaur head. Shows a little Predacon symbol, and then fold her head up the rest of the way and close that back panel up. And there you have Vertebreak in her robot mode. Now the weapon, she can hold it. It's another classic Beast Wars tail sword whip weapon. But what's also really nice is if you can see, if you look at the little, I guess, the little vertebrae here, these two are kind of formed into a clip. It's not really a clip, but it slots into the bones that are back here, so she can store her weapon in robot mode. And wow, that's really appreciated. I'm really glad that they, made sure that it could actually store somewhere, because that's I'd say my biggest nitpick about some of these Kingdom figures is that in one or the other of their modes, their weapons just straight up don't store at all, which is kind of a bummer. Like Rat Trap, he only pegged it onto the side here, and I've kind of been able to wedge the gun underneath here, but it wasn't designed with that intent. But he does store in robot mode, but then Black Arachnia stores really well in alt mode, but doesn't store in robot mode at all, and same with Cheetor. And it's just why? Why was that not in the design intent? But whatever. But this one, Vertebreak, does actually store the weapon in both modes, since it's just part of her alt mode, and it stores really nicely on our back there. So I definitely appreciate that. But yeah, she's a good little figure here. The head sculpt is pretty nice. I feel like you could maybe say this is cheating, because it sort of looks like the back of her head is designed to look like her bottom jaw, which of course is not where this piece actually comes from. And not entirely sure why they would do that, because this is not a character with a previous model that you're trying to stay, reliable to. So like they really don't have to do that. It's not obvious enough to really bother me, but it does sort of seem like that was the intent, which bugs me on sort of a conceptual level because it just is completely unnecessary, but whatever. Articulation wise, the head is on a ball joint. It's also in that transformation joint, so you can have it look up a little bit, but it looks kind of awkward doing that. The shoulders are on ball joints. The elbows are on ball joints. Nothing at the wrists. I find it kind of interesting that she actually has the 5 millimeter holes in the wrist, whereas Rat Trap had the smaller peg size. So they can't really cross pollinate with their weapons, and I'm pretty sure that Optimus Prime has that smaller peg size too. But it doesn't really bother me. It's just kind of an interesting thing. Nothing at the waist. The hips are on ball joints. Just a knee hinge, and then the feet are on ball joints. Actually, pretty good range ball joints too. You can really get a lot of you can really get a lot of dynamic range out of the feet, which I think is pretty nice. So yeah, it's a well articulated little figure. The only thing that it's really missing that's obvious to me, I mean, obviously it doesn't have a waist joint, but it also doesn't have a thigh swivel. But the ball joints have enough range that doesn't really bug me, and then also the feet can rotate too, so it's not like a situation where feet are just like locked forward and can't rotate out to give a little bit of a dynamic splay. But yeah, no, she's pretty good. I'll show her off again with those two other figures. Here she is again with Rat Trap, so you can see they're pretty much the same size. I mean, I showed them off in Rat Trap's review as well, but yeah, nice core class Kingdom figures. I like the size class. And then here she is again with the Paleotrex, her sort of fellow fossilizer. I mean, he's definitely a fossilizer, but as to whether Vertebreak is really supposed to be a fossilizer or not is a little bit debatable because she doesn't really do the whole fossilizer thing where like all of his joints come apart and he can be used as weapons and stuff like that, and he's a total parts former. She doesn't really have anything like that going on, but she definitely fits in aesthetically with him. But yeah, that's pretty much all there is to it. She's a really nice little figure. Probably, like I said, the one I was least excited about, but she's just a really solid little figure. I wish I had Power of the Prime Slash here to show her off with, but unfortunately I don't have that figure with me right now because they really they don't share a transformation or anything like that, but just because the size and the type of animal that they turn into, and the fact that they're both like female characters that don't have, super stupid busty robot modes or anything like that. Like they're slender or whatever. They look like they could be kind of feminine, but they're not like, how all the male Transformers can be whatever body type, and then all the female Transformers have to have like a chest and hips is just kind of dumb. So I prefer the figures that, they just say are female, but, they could be male if you wanted them to be or whatever, just because I feel like that fits with the more androgynous robot designs. But whatever, that's just a personal thing. Anyway, that's just a roundabout way of saying why those two figures remind me of each other so much. But yeah, she's a pretty good little figure. If you enjoy this video, make sure to leave a like and consider subscribing. I do BotBots reviews on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and then other reviews like these on Sundays. And yeah, without further ado, here we have Transformers War for Cybertron Kingdom Vertebreak.